TikTok, of course, has a massive audience in America, an estimated 150 million users. I mean, will TikTok actually get banned? And if so, what does it mean for social media at large? Joining us now, founder and CEO of Farvahar Partners and 1789 Capital, Omeed Malik. Omeed, good to see you again. You used to be very much for a TikTok ban. You wrote an op-ed about it in the year 2020. But now, I guess upon reading some of the intricacies, you're having second thoughts. Why?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I want to be very clear. I think I was doing this before it was popular. That op-ed was 4 years ago, and I made it very clear China does not engage in capitalism. They engage in mercantilism. And I have a whole host of issues with China and TikTok in particular. I've even come out in support for decoupling. They steal our IP. They make us have a local partner. There's effectively no reciprocity. And as you know, Brian, until very recently, they've been accessing our capital markets without having to have audited financials and serving up ADRs with no legal recourse for regular American shareholders. So it's a huge problem. And I really have an issue with what TikTok is doing to society. With all of that said, as you pointed out, I don't trust this bill that was passed. And I certainly don't trust the Biden administration to implement it fairly. And that's because, as you alluded to, I started to read the text of what was passed, and it is way too vague. I mean, one of the choice quotes is that if you are what they call subject to the direction of a foreign power, you can fall under this category. And just like we saw with the Patriot Act, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And so I am highly concerned, as we've discussed in the past, about how the federal government has been circumventing and abridging our rights. And I'm very concerned about that language, because as you also know, that same language is used against the former president of the United States for 3 years when they called him a Russian asset. Does that mean that Truth Social now should be banned as well? What does it mean for Rumble or X, a platform you know I'm a supporter of? If they don't like that, could you use this bill against it also? So it's really with the implementation, not the spirit, that I'm against, because I am a China hawk. I think there's a better way that I'm happy to get into.
Well, what would be that better way? And I think people that would oppose your views would say, well, no, this is targeted to Chinese ownership, and it's more targeted to the Chinese Communist Party, and the companies that you just mentioned are U.S.-centric or Canadian-centric, and their servers are here, and we can kind of control, in a way, what they do.
Yeah, so a couple of things on that. It's a good point, but the text is actually 4 countries. It explicitly calls out China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. And the phrase, again, there are several different categories, not to get into too detail, people can look it up, but one of them is you can just be a person or a website that's subject to the control of one of those countries. And that's why I kind of brought up the Trump thing in a tongue-in-cheek manner, because we had like a 3-year investigation by an independent counsel going into the fact for the preposterous claim that he was under the influence of Putin. So I'm just saying these things could be abused politically, and I could see an attorney general doing something like that against Musk if they so felt like it. So that's just my response to, the text of the bill. The better way is to look at how inert our Congress has been on the broader issue of social media. We know that TikTok, as abhorrent as they are, and that foreign ownership, all the big companies do this. All of them are tracking our data and misusing it, Meta and so on and so forth. And in fact, if this does get sold, who's going to be the beneficiary? Some other big tech monopoly. So I'm not okay with that either, that's doing the same bad stuff. The entire social media apparatus in this country is governed by a law from 1996, to put in perspective how preposterous this is. 30 years ago, when you and I were around, unfortunately, they were trying to help companies like Prodigy take off. So they said, we're going to give them protection under Section 230 for their content. Do you think that's appropriate now for companies that are the largest in our economy to have a legal liability shield? Get rid of it. Start using antitrust laws to break these guys up. Start putting in the types of protection that people want, an actual Bill of Rights around privacy to stop every company, not just TikTok, abusing our data. And then finally, in the great state of Florida that, I'm a supporter of and where I live, we're going to look back at social media companies like we do about cigarettes, about how ubiquitous they are and how bad they are. Here, we passed a law that banned children under the age of 14 from using them. That's another way to universally apply protections for kids against all social media companies, not just one.
We forget how new they are. It's like the car. The car came out, there was no rules, there's no lanes, there was no lights, and then it took decades to build all the rules out. And that's where we are. I think it's well said. By the way, I started law school in 99, Omeed. We studied Section 230. Nobody knew what the hell was going on. We were all trying to figure it out then. Omeed Malik, thank you very much. Appreciate your views. Strong, as always.
Great to see you. Appreciate it.